Welcome, everyone. We are thrilled to have you with us today for this very special book presentation with Dr. Erella Shadmi. Imagine a Mother World Beyond Patriarchy, Capitalism, and White Supremacy. Hosted by Genevieve Vaughan and the International Feminists for a Gift Economy. I'm Letitia Layson, your moderator. We are so happy that Erella is joining us from Israel. So let's get started. I'm going to introduce Dr. Erella Shadmi. She is a feminist, activist scholar, and peace activist and mother to Odin, an artist and designer. She headed the Women's Studies program and taught the sociology of policing at Beit Burrell College and has published extensively on these subjects. Dr. Shadmi was co-founder of the Kol HaIsha Feminist Center in Israel and the Fifth Mother Women's Peace Movement, and an activist with Women in Black. You can read her full bio on our website. But for now, I would like to welcome Erella. When you're ready, Erella.
Yeah, thank you, Leticia. Thank you for the introduction. Let me begin by expressing my deep gratitude to my teachers and sisters in the maternal gift economy movement and the modern matriarchal studies movement networks. As a sociologist, I see myself as an observer of social processes and translator of the wisdom of these women to the world we live in. As an activist, and I am first and foremost an activist, I am a dreamer. I wish to open the eyes and hearts of women and men to ways of thinking, doing, and living according to what I learned from observation and the knowledge the knowledge my friends taught me. How ideas may be translated into practices. In the face of the complicated crisis that we see, that we are in it right now, it seems that the Western civilization is unable to solve the crisis it has caused and must be changed or even replaced. Other ways of living and thinking should be our compass. Increasingly, scholars and activists question the rationale of Western civilization, its institutions and ideas, including the state, nationalism, capitalism, the Enlightenment, and socialism. Economists and social scientists talk about post-capitalism, and feminists talk about post-patriarchy. Indigenous midwife and thinker Kathy Cook believes that the current environmental and ecological crisis is rooted in the colonial actions and imperialist violence of this civilization, of this culture. As a result, the collapse of the democracy in many countries, including Israel, especially now, is not the source of evil, but the culmination of cultural decay. Likewise, Tom Harman, an American critical thinker, sees culture as the main problem as a result of four errors that are anchored in our ways of thinking and in the story we tell ourselves. A belief that we are separate from nature, belief that abstraction, that is economic system, is divine and separate from us, a belief that men should run the world and women are their property, and a belief that the best way to manage the world is through fear, not through love, compassion, or support. I do not propose to reject all the achievements and insights of Western thought, but I propose to be open to thinking outside the box. As Arundhati Roy says, and I quote, The first step to reimagining a world that has gone terribly wrong would be to stop the destruction of those who have different imagination that is outside of capitalism as well as communism, an imagination that has a completely different understanding of what constitutes happiness and fulfillment. Those who may seem like our guardians of the past, but who can really be our future guides. End of quote. My entire personal history is rooted in the search of comprehensive social reform, revolution, if you wish. When I went to work in the police, I began to understand the nature of a sexist and patriarchal organization with a masculine and militant culture, but also the failure of various reforms and the need for an alternative model of attaining social order. I also began to realize that many women who joined the police and reached high ranks had no real influence on changing or improving the institution. When I left the police, I intensified my feminist activism. I began to understand the need to examine the intersections of all social change struggles. Under the auspices of the Coalition of Women for Peace, I organized the Conference of Connections in 2002, where activists, men and women, discussed ways to integrate our efforts against patriarchy, capitalism, racism, and white supremacy, the issue of war and peace and the destruction of nature, that is, to lead to a wide-ranging revolution. Everyone was enthusiastic about the conference, but change was still far away. From here, my path to thinking of changing the entire system was short. It became clear to me that women's rights and equality, full representation in decision-making, a new economy, and a re-understanding of the body and sexuality are necessary, but insufficient steps for women's liberation. Nor is it enough to reform and upgrade existing social institutions such as the police, while Trumpism, populism, and anti-democratic governments, such as those currently in power in Israel and Hungary, for example, can turn it all upside down. From the 2020 World Economic Forum, I learned that gender equality will not be achieved in the next 120 years, at least. It seems that the Western way of knowing, being, and doing, despite its intellectual and technological strengths and achievements, is unable or does not know how to respond to the new challenges it faces, which arouse fear among many, and may perhaps explain the rise of autocratic regimes. There is a need to develop a new paradigm or worldview, one that changes consciousness and builds an alternative socio-political system. We urgently need a vision of survival in the digital, neoliberal, and populist age. I found my path when I was introduced to Genevieve Vaughan, who developed the maternal gift economy perspective, Heide Gutner-Abendroth, who developed the modern matriarchal studies, Barbara Alisman, who opened my eyes to indigenous wisdom, as well as the many inspiring women whom I was lucky enough to meet at our conferences and web networks and became my dear friends. They changed my understanding and outlook on society, and ultimately led me to the transformative path based on the maternal logic. This path goes beyond the rejection of patriarchy, capitalism, and white supremacy, and offers the outline of an alternative world that in fact already is in the making. In doing so, I give due respect and recognition to women's knowledge and ways of knowing, what the Sami scholar Susan Dirk Cloud calls rematriation, that is, the reappropriation of women's spiritual remnants, culture, knowledge, and experience, rather than the adoption of patriarchal legacy. In a word, what I am doing in my book, I use all these precious perspective or worldviews developed by my dear friends, put them in the blender of my brain and spirit, and try to integrate them to a new revolutionary paradigm and world order. Or, as Veronica Benhold Thompson indeed observed, I pour all my teachers' wisdom, of course, the way I understand them, into a viable perspective for our actual globalized societies. Maternal logic is understood only by thinking outside the box. This is outside patriarchy, capitalism, and the Western social order and thinking. First, the reconceptualization of patriarchy. As Claudia von Werhoff proposes, patriarchy is no longer defined merely as a traditional leftover of male domination that sooner or later will be abolished by modernity, but as a worldwide transdisciplinary paradigm built on the employment of low or unpaid women as an early basis of capitalist accumulation, on treating nature as a dead thing to be exploited, on the perception of the male as capable, using alchemy, science, and capitalism to create better materials, a better life, a new person, and even a post-human person. That is patriarchy as utopian. To realize such grandiose goals, patriarchy develops and uses the war machine, domination, and oppression. The utopian assumption is that the male sex is the creative, not the female. Moreover, the capitalist patriarchy convinces us that there is no other alternative. However, if we use a larger telescope, as Maria Mies suggests, and compare the two central forms of civilization in human history, on one hand, the egalitarian, cooperative, matriarchal civilization that exists according to nature and life, and on the other hand, the hierarchical, patriarchal civilization that attempts to control nature. If we see both of them, we will see both the failure of Western civilization and its alternative. Second, the mother logic is understood only outside capitalism and the market paradigm, which lead us directly to the gift economy, an economy that works alongside the exchange economy, but is never recognized yet exploited by it. Maternal logic completely reverses the feminist understanding of motherhood, since it sees motherhood not as a patriarchal institution, but as a site where the gift economy begins, the alternative to the exchange economy, and where people, under the right circumstances that patriarchy often abandons, experience giving and receiving gifts. Vaughan further argues that humans are originally homodominants, gift givers, but patriarchy, capitalism, and especially the underlying exchange system distance us from our true nature. Mothering is done not only by women giving birth, but everyone who is involved in raising children, including fathers, brothers and sisters, uncles and aunts, the community. That's why Vaughan correctly suggests the term mother rearers. All those mother rearers and many other gift givers are the ones who redefine humans as homodominants. Third, outside the box also means outside Western social structure and knowledge. And this leads us to past and present matriarchies, modern matriarchal studies, and indigenous studies. Matriarchy, as the study of Heide Guttner Abendroth shows, is not the opposite of patriarchy. It is a society that is not of domination, but of peace, balance, cooperation, and capital distribution, of responding to the needs of the others and living within spiritual communities that treat people and nature with respect. As such, and as it is based on gender equality and on decision-making based on consensus, matriarchy provides full and genuine security and freedom, including sexual freedom, to all its members. Women and mothers are at the social and spiritual center rather than above, thus avoiding top-down domination and creating an egalitarian society. It is a non-violent society based on cooperation and balance between all its components: gender balance, intergenerational balance, balance between people and nature, between heaven and earth. Non-Western thinking also mean indigenous knowledge. Indeed, indigenous peoples are diverse, distant from each other, influenced by different types of environments. Indigenous knowledge respect different versions of existing and thinking. Therefore, it is difficult to generalize their meaning or define indigenous thought. Rebecca Adamson, a Cherokee economist and founder of the First Peoples Worldwide, suggests that there are three interrelated characteristics of indigenous society. First, community is essential for survival. I will emphasize here also in this context the concept of Ubuntu, meaning I exist because I belong. My peace depends on your peace. Second, life exists through balance and harmony. This means that indigenous people give and take from nature in sync with natural cycles, ensuring that our assumes remain healthy and abundant. Third, nature is a source of knowledge. Indigenous society and knowledge are largely based on biological indicators or natural science. LaDonna Harris for Indian Opportunity and Alexander Chistakis, president of the International Society for System Science, were able to identify and articulate what they call the core values of indigenous peoples, particularly the 4 R's: relationship, responsibility, reciprocity, and redistribution. These 4 R's contradict the 2 P, power and profit, the characteristic of Western capitalism. In a word, I see this all new concept of motherhood at 3 layers of transformation. First, motherhood is a basis for empowering mothers themselves. Second, motherhood as an organizational principle of a new social and political order that is a system of values applicable to both the public and private spheres, including human relations, family, politics, society, and economy. Third, mothering, the work that mothers do as a collective responsibility, with no special emphasis on biological motherhood, which, by the way, changes this institution of the family as well. The logic of motherhood, or the worldview of matriarchal giving, then, is entirely different from Western worldview, as it is based on giving, responsibility, caring, mutual connection, complementary to, community, respectful individualism based on free and equal people, the gift economy, the subsistence economy, balance and responsibility, spirituality and holiness of Mother Nature and all her inhabitants, and finally, harmony. All this, instead of the Western worldview, that is based on domination, patriarchy, monotheism, nation states, capitalism, profit, religion, borders, and extreme individualism. Based on this alternative worldview, the second part of the book presents ways to re-understand concepts such as family, violence and security, sexuality, and peace. Just to give you one example in short, I suggest to see all sexual relations as practices of the gift economy, as sexuality means the response to the need of the other. Cases of rape and violence against women are not understood as sexual relations, but as instances of patriarchal power structures. Further, sexuality, as Bernadette Mutien argues, is fluid and dynamic, rather than fixed binary. Sexuality can never really be fixed, not predetermined and primordial, and does not hold us physiologically hostage. As the field of physiology itself explains, chromosomes and hormones are inherently liquid, and that both male and female exist in all human beings. From the Huchitan study by Veronica Benhold Thompson, we learn that transgenderism is not at all a problem for a matriarchal society. I was lucky enough to visit this town and see it myself. Also, there are balanced societies concerning the female and male half of the human race, and maintain this balance. They easily include transgenders and respect their individual choices. A boy can grow up in the female sphere of action, a girl do the same in the male sphere of action. They see these transgenders as female or male, not as female or male, but give them special terms, such as mukes for transgenders in the female sphere, and machalila for transgender in the male sphere. That is, they consider them a kind of third or fourth species, even though they are fully integrated into one of the two spheres. It is clear to me the transition from our world to a new social order and paradigm shift does not happen immediately, but in a long and complex process like any other vision. And it will certainly encounter countless objections and oppositions. But I want to argue that several phenomena indicate that its realization has already begun. First, I suggest to pay attention to the transformative activism that has been in action for at least 2 decades and creates a new world from below that is built on familial community, cooperatives, independent media and research centers, and other social institutions. Second, the COVID-19 crisis has revealed how much we need the support of community, family, and friends alongside the functioning of the state. It also revealed that the people's need to voice their demands and ideas, which is much more the representative government. That it's much more than representative government. It leads us to a participative government, or politics, or democracy. Another example of this new paradigm is the communal state of Venezuela, that created for us a real and possible example of a different social order. And it is precisely the efforts of the United States and other countries to destroy it that testify to how important it is or was by now. See also the Bolivian constitution that decided not long ago to give voice to what we academics call non-territorial autonomies. See the Kurdish community in Rojava, as well as the Nashira community that was built by our friend Angela Dolmech in Colombia. Both are founded on the same principles. And finally, alongside the technological revolution that we focus so much on, we should recognize the pluriverse revolution. This new concept encompasses a broad multicultural collection of concrete concepts, worldviews, and practices from around the world that challenge the thinking of universalism in favor of multiplicity of possible worlds. Not only one Western universe, but pluriverse, many universes are possible. Combining both approaches and understandings has created both a new analytical toolbox and a list of ways to transform thinking and the world for those seeking creative solutions to dismantle Western domination around the world. I propose to recognize the mother logic as one of the possibility of this pluriverse world. It is our responsibility to encourage this step forward so this activist will internalize the deep meaning. And as I believe, the meaning suggested by the alternative matriarchal gift worldview described in my book. This is necessary to prevent powerful forces and the corporate regime from appropriating these changes for their own interest, as they have been doing for generations. See, for example, how the welfare system and the move towards liberation of the 1950s and 1960s turned into neoliberalism. It is important, therefore, to conceptualize them as part of an alternative paradigm. I am well aware that most people, including feminists, would prefer to hear concrete suggestions to be applied tomorrow morning. I give some suggestions in the third part of my book, including connecting indigenous and Western thinking, women's leadership, socialization for the gift economy, adapting alternative stories, moving from representative democracy to participative democracy, and so on. However, as I reveal the deep failure of the Western civilization and suggest an alternative world, most people, especially the privileged and academics, get frightened and rather see me as a dreamer and a utopist and reject my ideas. I thank my mother that made me stubborn and my father that showed me what integrity is. I believe that we, members of the maternal gift economy and modern matriarchal studies networks, and especially indigenous people, provide Western activists and scholars with new ways of being, doing, and thinking, but especially with a vision. Vision, which is central in my activism and writing, is no less crucial than practical ways forward. Vision provides meaning and compass. Vision demarcates the lines of an alternative society and testifies that there is an alternative. It shows us where we are headed forward, toward. What is the deep meaning of the strategies we may use today? What may unite us? Vision gives us hope, and hope is the last to die, as the Russians say. The vision, the hope that go out of the mother logic and are based on the maternal gift economy, modern matriarchal studies, and indigenous wisdom stand at the core of this book. Many thanks to you all.
Thank you, Erella. That was a very powerful presentation. Jen, I wondered if you have any comments that you'd like to offer. You need to unmute before we actually open up to questions. And for those of you who are with us today in the Zoom room, if you would please enter your questions into the Q&A or your comments into the chat, we welcome them. Erella is interested to hear your thoughts.
Thank you so much, Erella. I think your book is so important, and I think this way of weaving together the different movements that you've shown is really wonderful. I believe that the maternal gift economy and the logic of maternal gifting is at the basis of all of those movements, because each one is trying to give the gift of a better world, of a better society. But I think many of them do not have the idea of the maternal as their basis. So to me, it's important to emphasize that and how to communicate that to people who are doing different movements that are great, but that, as far as I'm concerned, lack that original piece. What do you think?
I agree. I totally agree. I think that's right. And you know, the book in Hebrew is named differently, and the title is the legacy of motherhood. And many say to me, don't call it mother, don't use the motherhood on the title, because many people will not like to hear about mother anymore, you know, or they don't see mother, or they cannot see motherhood or mothering as or the maternal legacy as a source of power, as a source of change, or a basis for paradigm shift. And I insisted to use the word motherhood in Hebrew and in English, because I really think that including feminists, that they kind of hide motherhood. They make research on experience of motherhood, but they don't talk about the logic of motherhood. The motherhood as a concept, as a way out of this situation, you know. And I think you're right. I think that you don't call it, Genevieve, you don't call it the gift economy. You call it the maternal gift economy, and it all starts with the motherhood. I think the gift economy starts with you know, motherers, as a matter of fact. And it's very important to emphasize, and it's very important for me to emphasize it. And you know, I went to a conference of economists, International Conference of Economists, and presented them the motherhood as a concept of change, of alternative to capitalism. They couldn't cope with it. They didn't know what to do with it. You know, really, they didn't know what to do with it. But I think so. I think yes, I agree with you. It's very important to insist on the use of the maternal, to talk about the maternal history, the maternal experience. Yes.
Yeah, and the fact of people that do gift economy, there are a lot of people trying to practice the gift economy, but if they don't base it in motherhood, it's not generalizable. But if they do base it in motherhood, since everybody has to be mothered, then it can be more easily generalized, I think.
Yeah, I emphasize that in the book also, that you know, not everybody has, also the concept of motherware that you invented, you know, that you use, it emphasizes that not only biological mothers are part of mothering, you know, not fathers and aunts and sisters and you know, brothers and uncles and the community in general, you know. It's very important.
Yeah, mothering is a logic that includes everybody, and it's the basic model of the human, basic. Anyway, there you are. Maybe there's some
Thank
other.
you. Yes, let's check in with Liliana.
Yes, I have a question from Rachel O'Leary, and she says, how can we go beyond our emotions and thoughts so we realize the deep changes we need to link powerfully with each other and communities?
Well, yeah, I think many, well, at least in Israel, the what they call the intentional communities are it's quite a large movement, of generation Y and X, the younger generation go and live in communities. Also older people now move to communities, but they face many problems because they don't know how to, they are not used, they are so individualistic that they are not used to live in communities. And I think it takes time. I think, first of all, I think the gift economy is a way to really being aware of using the gift economy as a practice, a daily practice. It makes you more attentive to the needs of the others, more attentive, not going out of your individualism, of your selfishness. I think it's very important to practice the gift giving, very important. And there are many ways to do it. And I think communities, the intentional communities today are doing it in practice, but they are not aware. And I think it's as my role to make them aware of the way they use the gift economy, to give it a meaning, to give it, to put it under the title of gift economy, not just we support the neighborhood. You give gift to the neighborhood. You give to your friends, and I think also it's very important what Heidi emphasizes in her writing is the listening to everybody in the community. For example, and making decision-making by consensus. It means that we hear everybody. It's not that the majority rule. Like now in Israel, we talk a lot about the majority rule, and the majority democracy is very shaken, because it's a mistake. I think it's important to listen to everybody, and everybody in the group, including people who are silent because they are shy, because they are insecure. Ask them, talk with them. Don't let them be silent and unheard in a decision-making process. It's very important to listen to everybody, especially to women. I mean, men are more used to, to voice their needs or whatever. And I think it's very important what Heidi emphasizes, to listen to everybody and decision-making by consensus. And I think also it's important, that's why if you read the last part of this is why I like the Venezuela, the attempt to build a communal state. Very interesting experience. But the last chapter of my book is about peace in the Middle East, peace between the Mediterranean and the Jordan River. And I'm talking there I'm talking about, and it's a big issue now in Israel, again, always, I mean, the question of peace. And I think we have to move from the concept, the centrality of the state to living in communes, living in communities, including, and it enables all of us to speak. It enables all of us to voice our needs. And in this chapter on peace, I talk about part of my suggestion is to move from states, from nationalism to localism. And I think I can see in Israel already the process of localization in many ways. And because localization gives you a chance to talk, to voice your needs, to voice your ideas, what you cannot do in a 1 in 4 years election, you know.
Thanks, Erella. Liliana, is there another question you have for us?
Yes. Mitchell Cowan Verder is asking, there's two questions here.
What?
There's two questions from Mitchell Cowan. What kind of state should we imagine in this multi-social utopia? And then the next question, and I can repeat them. What is the place of politics? Actually, 3 questions. And then it says, do we still need a state form, or is this vision closer to anarchist communism?
I just respond and you'll tell me if you still have a question. I know that, you know, when you talk about matriarchies, you are always here claim that you are anarchist, which I see as a compliment, you know. I love Emma Goldman, and I think her writings, her ideas, and her activism was very important in my education too, as a grown up. So I'm not afraid of anarchism, because anarchism means, but I'm not talking about anarchism in the way it is understood in by the public. I'm talking about living in small groups, in smaller groups. Still, I see a very important function for the central state. I'm not erasing the state. That's why I'm using the example of Venezuela. What Chavez built there was, and that's why he was destroyed. Really, destroyed by bombs. I mean, if you read the history, because he suggested a political system, what he calls from above and from down. You have the communities working on the local level, making their own decision, and their needs are going up to the states. And on the other side, there is the state that gives you from up down the services that you cannot get when you are a community. For example, as a community, you cannot build hospital. Even school, sometimes it's too much to build. You need a regional school or hospital or even roads, you know, to build highways. I mean, you need the state. So there are certain function that the state is responsible for too. So that's why Chavez used them. I don't remember exactly how he called it. He said something like from above and from down. And I mean, there are two channels that work and they meet each the channels from the needs from down, going from down up, and the help or the authority going from up from the state down. And I think in my vision, I see it this way. I mean, and for me, it's important first to give all the people the opportunity to voice their needs, all the people. And for this, you need communities. You cannot do it in a big society. You need this. On the other hand, you need help from above. And I remember when I was in Mexico, I went one Saturday night to a communal meeting in a small city. They have it every Saturday night or once, I don't remember, once a month, I don't remember. The community makes the decisions, and they have a representative in the town, and their representative is the one who helped them to realize, to attain their need, what they want. And I think it's very important to give voice to the people. That's why I'm talking about participative democracy and not representative democracy, and we have to move from here to there. It's very important. I think it's not anarchy. It's a different kind of democracy, and I think it's a real possibility. It's a real possibility, and you hear it more and more about it among activists and thinkers. Yes. Did I answer your question?
Yes. I have another question from an anonymous attendee that is asking where will I be able to buy her new book in North America? And the answer was written by Diane. If you go look in the chat, it explains there where you go. There's a link. You can go and buy the book. Then there's a question from Nancy Simpson. And she asked, would you consider using an alternative word concept for patriarchy and matriarchy? That is heterarchy. Heterarchy implies a more complex sharing of power instead of male or female domination. I think using the heterarchy term captures better the gift economy. I can ask it again, Erella. Well,
I can give you what Heide would have said. She said that the suffix archy has two meanings. One, like in archaeology. Yeah, in archaeology, the meaning of archy is the source of. Archaeology is looking for the source of society, the source of humanity. In patriarchy, archy means power. And she said matriarchy is not about power, it's not about domination, it's about the source. Women, femininity is the source of authority, let's say, or of a community, of history, which is not the opposition of patriarchy. I'm afraid to start with new concepts because I think what we are doing in when we talk about matriarchal studies, indigenous wisdom, and maternal gift economy, it's enough. What I would say, enough is enough. I mean, it's too much to people to get it. I mean, in our networks, women are used to it because we had many conferences, and we know the words and the concept. But to people, it's really a big change, and to change the concept, I'm afraid to do it. But you can try. I mean, you always can try. Did I answer you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. There's a question from Genevieve Vaughan, and she says, I want to make a comment on values. Exchange is not a product of selfishness. It is the origin or stimulus of selfishness. Do you agree?
What? Say it again.
I want to make a comment on values. Exchange is not a product of selfishness. It is the origin or stimulus of selfishness. Do you agree?
Origin.
Jen, maybe you can ask the question.
Genevieve, I think you should respond to this. I think it's at least in Genevieve's way of thinking, in Genevieve's perspective, the main problem is exchange. The principle of exchange, which is stands at the core of the market paradigm, is exchange. And Genevieve, would you like to respond?
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to butt in, but yeah, I think that the reason we are so self-centered and adversarial is because we're in that kind of a system. economic system. And that all is based in the quid pro quo exchange, which is absolutely the opposite of giving and receiving, free. And so the more we do that, the more we do exchange or believe in it and don't think of the gifting as an alternative, the more selfish we get. Whereas if we are doing gift giving, the more kind-hearted, generous, and other-oriented we become. That's just my thought. So
I saw a question just about how I wrote the book, or something about my writing. Did I see a question about it?
Liliana, do you see a question like that?
It's Judith's question. It's in the chat.
Okay.
Never. But you asked me about right now. I know that the publisher keeps the book. Gail, you asked me to define gift economy. Okay. In a minute, Gail. Somebody asked about if you can buy it in America. I think right now you cannot. You can buy it either digital or print, only in the publisher. This I think here's the link. The link for this publisher in Israel.
Yes, it's in the chat.
What?
The answer, the link to buy the book is in the chat. Diana's posted it twice. Okay, so we have another question from Judith Walk. Thanks, Erella. I look forward to reading this book. Tell us about writing it, how long it took, how you got it published, was there any opposition, etc.
Well, I think I call it the book of my life because I think since I was a child, I was talking about revolution. Really, I mean, when I joined the socialist youth movement, the age of 9, I heard the first time the international, the hymn, the communist hymn, the talk about building a new world, and it became my I don't know, it became the center of my life in many ways. Everywhere I went to, I tried to change, to make a change, a big change, not just but I was looking at, and that's why I tried to talk with you about. I talked earlier about my experience with the police and my experience as a feminist and my disappointment as a feminist, because and I've seen myself all the time as a radical feminist. I mean, radical feminism for me is feminism that aims to build a new world. So I was looking for a way to build a new world all my life. I mentioned the Conference of Connection that I initiated in the early, more than 20 years ago in Israel, and it was a big success, but no results, no real results. And because, and this connection, I made this connection between all issues, patriarchy, racism, wars, everything, capitalism. It was the basis of, this is what we discussed in this conference, I mean, 25 years ago or so. And it bothered me all the time. And I think what I found in the work, in these three sources, finally, and especially in the integration of the three sources that I tried to do in my book, of the maternal gift economy, modern matriarchal studies, and indigenous wisdom. I think indigenous wisdom is an ocean. It's really an ocean that I'm so said that Western people just don't know it, nothing. And I know only little of it, I'm a student of it. And I think what I tried to do in my book is exactly that, to find a vision, an integrated or movement of movements, an integration of all these ways, all this perspective to one way of thinking, not one way of thinking, but one vision, and how we can use it and how we can apply it. And in the second part of the book, I'm talking about applications of how I applied this new value system, or this new, I can apply it in everyday life. And and since I as a matter of fact, I finished it at least 5 years ago, maybe more. And publishers just didn't want even to look at it. I sent it to some international publisher. I told you it was written in English. And I remember publisher could respond to a book of 300 pages in a day, saying, they saw motherhood, the title motherhood, they sent it away. They saw revolution, they sent it away. They just didn't want to read it. And it took me, finally I decided I'm going to do it myself. And I found the Israeli publisher that I've known. They live in Haifa like myself, they're neighbors, and I paid them to do it. I paid them, and it was, it's a lot of money to pay for two. To do it both in English and in Hebrew, because publisher didn't want to publish the book, and I sent it to, I don't know, 10, 15 publisher. It was also, at the beginning, it was also the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, so they didn't change they changed everything, including the book market. But I think it was more than that. I think publishers had the problem of with reading this book, with relating to this book. It's and I think I told you, I mentioned it. It's more than publisher. I see many of my friends that I have a very good friend. One of my best friends is she's the president of the Israeli Sociological Association, a very important person. She's a very good friend of mine. And for years she said, very interesting, Erella, but it has nothing to do with life. It is not relevant, blah, blah, blah. It's your dream, but it has no meaning. And then after she's president of the Sociological Association. It's a very important person. And I say, okay, read it, look at it. No. And she surprised me just a year ago. She published a paper about the most important 5 feminist perspectives of economics. And the 5th one was motherhood, the mother logic, what I say called the mother logic. The 5th one, and I said, look, Oli, what happened to you? She said, I finally understood your point. Finally understood your point, and how much it is important. So, and this is one person. She's a very important person, so it's important. So it's important in Israel, at least, or in conferences she goes to. But it was very difficult, and still is. On the other hand, I think women, especially women, but not only women, men. For example, I had a call from a man, an activist from Beersheba, which is south of Israel. I've never met him. I've never talked with him, and saw my name somewhere. And he wrote to me, "I read you. You read an article I wrote about peace like 7 years ago, in a newspaper, in a newspaper. And I read, and in this in this article, of course, my peace vision is also based on these three sources, on the same logic. He said, I read it 5 years ago, and since then I read everything you write. I follow you. And only now, I mean, a month ago, he called me and we began to talk, and I gave him the new book, and he's very happy with the new book. So there are people somewhere, especially women, but some men, that accept the idea, that loved it even. That I mean, women say to me that the anthology about the same subject that I published in 2015 in Hebrew, they said it changed their mind, changed their life, they changed their perspective. I get this, but it was a very frustrating process to publish this book, very frustrating and insulting in many ways. Insulting. It was. I felt that I also feel from my colleagues in academia and even the feminist movement, especially the feminist movement, that they are interesting, but you know, this is the Michiganer. You know what's Michiganer in Yiddish? Crazy Erella.
Thanks, Erella. Erella, people are having a problem. They want to right now buy your book. So I'm going to let Diane take over for a moment so that she can actually help people figure out how to order it from the website. So Diane.
Hi, everybody. I understand some people are having problems with the website being in Hebrew. So I hope you all can see this.
It's in
and
English.
If you click this button up here on the top, near the top left next to the Facebook symbol, it should change to English, and then you can purchase it. And everything from then on should be in English, as you can see here. So I hope that helps you to be able to find the book. And I put the link in the chat again. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Diane.
Yes, thank you, Diane. Yes, I want to encourage you all. I think it's such an important book. I told Erella that I've only had a chance to read the first part, so the introduction and part 1, and very excited. It's just so it's timely, and it seems that there are lots of women that I meet right now who are interested, and they have also come to the same place in their inquiry of bringing all these streams of thought together. And the maternal gift economy is the thing that seems to just click everything in. So please get your copy of the book. Now, it does take a bit to get to you because it's coming from Israel if you're buying the physical book, but you can download it right now. So, all right, I'm gonna
just a minute. My cousin Gail, who is on, asked the question: what is the gift economy, the maternal gift economy? Genevieve, would you like Genevieve? Hi, Gail. She's my cousin, and I feel very she's here with us, so I want to. And she asked what is the maternal gift economy? The maternal gift economy is. Genevieve, it's what Genevieve Vaughan has developed for years. I think 50 years she's writing about it, and it's I think you should Genevieve, you are the best one to talk about it, to explain what is the maternal gift economy.
Well, I'm afraid my explanation may be too long. Maybe you could do a brief one. Or
okay. Briefly, really briefly, it's a very important perspective with many meaning, not meaning, but implications. But what Genevieve suggests is that what mother do, it's the maternal gift economy starts with mothering. A baby cannot survive without a grown-up taking care of him or her. So what the mother do, what the mother or the father or motherers, what they do is taking care of the baby is and what's important in this taking care is responding to the needs of the baby. Very important. And this is the first step. And as a matter of fact, we all, men and women, experience gift giving as children, as babies, as children, and we grow up with gift giving, but we don't name it because we don't have, until Genevieve gave it a name, we didn't have a name for it. And this and boys from the age of 4 or 5 get socialized to the opposite of gift giving, to power or to competition or to individualism more than women. That's why women keep it longer time or deeper the idea. Now, if you look around, you can see that gift giving or the gift economy is all around us, but we don't see it. Starting with nature, what we with heat come from, it's a gift from the sun. Rain gives us water or rivers, and we get it for free. It's the first gift the gift we get from nature. Now we do get gifts from different situations. What mother do, for example, feminists like to call mothering or what mother do the silent or the unknown economy or something like that. That it's used, it's exploited. But what we see it as a gift that are exploited by the capitalism. Capitalism cannot survive without the free gift given by women and by the third world, or by slavery. You know, these are free gifts, but they are forced on them. But we have to recognize them, and it's important to see that we use it every day. For example, when we talk to a friend and give her idea or hug her, this is a free gift. Or when we help somebody on the street, this is a free gift. Also, if you see how capitalism capitalist makes the money for free gifts, because they take the price, how do you call it, the
Profit.
the profit. What is profit? It's a gift given to the capitalist. It's a gift, but we don't see it as a gift. What Genevieve does in her work is she opened up our eyes to see that gifts are everywhere, but we can use it as an alternative. Instead of being exploited by capitalists, we can use it as a main kind of economy, and you can see more and more people trying to apply free gift giving, and starting, I don't know, I'll give you examples from Israel, like bookshelves put in the streets. Our streets, you know, you don't need a library now. You go to a bookshelf, free bookshelf in one street, and take a book for free, or markets, you know, not free markets for give and takes things, or free, and people are more and more using, more and more recognizing that gifts are everywhere, and we cannot live without gifts. We cannot live without gifts. I mean, what we get from our partners, life partners, are gifts. And this, what I get from from Dalia, for example, my partner Dalia, is she's responding to my needs. She's responding to my needs. That's why I said in my presentation that I see sexuality as sexual relations. I mean, not patriarchal sexual relation. Sexual relation as an example of gift giving, because you respond to the needs of the other. The other also respond to your needs, which is okay. But it can be, but it's not this. It's not that I exchange gifts. It's I give. I'm sensitive to the needs of other people, and I'm trying to help them to respond to their needs. And people are more and more using it. See, Genevieve.
Yeah, that was a wonderful explanation. Thank you so much. I think that that we need to see the gift economy really as the basis of our logic, of our language, and as a general principle of human interaction, of community, and see it everywhere, like Erella says. But that philosophy has been eliminated from patriarchal academia because the men did not see it, and they were part of patriarchy, and they did not take care of children, and they never saw that interaction as important. There's also the fact, I think, that we have a lateralization of the brain around 3 years old, when the left brain becomes dominant, and the maternal model is particularly strong in the first couple of years. So before that lateralization, so it's possible that might have some kind of influence on our being able to language it. I don't know, but that also it is, as I think, the basis of language itself, and of communication, that is co-communication, which means giving gifts together. Muni means gifts in Latin. And so really my own challenge is trying to reveal the gifts that are everywhere. And I encourage everybody to take up that challenge, because I can't do it by myself. Thank you. Thanks so much, Erella. I love your explanation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Liliana.
Yes, there's a question from Frida Warden, and she says, please talk more about how you apply your vision in everyday life.
Well, Frida, a big question. First of all, by gift giving. By respecting the other, the needs of the other, by respecting the needs of the other, by listening. For example, my daughter, she drives me crazy. I never show her that she drives me crazy, not only because she's my daughter, but because that's where she is now. That's her situation. She needs more attention. She needs more mothering. I don't know. She's not so young, But and it's important for me to respond to her needs. It's very this is one way. The other way is I'm trying for quite a long, but people are still contact me for this reason. I was the first to suggest, and I put it as a chapter in the book, to suggest what I call a safe community for women. Safe community for women. A community for, first of all, survivors of male violence, but also for women, for elder women who don't want to live alone and they want a community and they need care. But also, and what's important, when I began only with community for older women, and then came to me younger women, and came to me, why only older women? Single mothers who say, we would like to be part of this community. So I began, and if you read you read this chapter, it's exactly what I'm trying. Now it's more popular. It's more popular to build communities for older people, but not only older. I want to for women, very sensitive to women. I want the older women to help the younger mother, and the younger mother to help the older women. And this is kind of, not to help, but to give to helping is gift giving, and living in a community that is both secure, give you security as a woman, give you support as a woman, and give you and where you get different kind of gifts from the community and from different women. And so I don't think I'll go now to live in it's too late for me to start a community now, but at least many followers, they read me, they heard me, and now, you know, communities for elderly is very popular in Israel, and I still get you know, telephone calls. What about your communities? And I think that the example I give by applying both Western knowledge with indigenous knowledge in my writing, in my thinking, in my talks, it's an example of how I write it also in the book, that it's very important to use both kind of knowing, all kinds of knowing. It's not only because, you know, there is the story that I don't remember the anthropologist who wrote about it, about this indigenous sailor that went in the middle of the night from one island to a very far away island, and he just did it wonderfully. He found a way without any problem, without any technology, nothing at all. So the anthropologists asked him, how do you know what your name? What is your way? He said, I look at the sky, I see where the stars are, and I read the stars, the sky, and I see the wind, and I feel the wind, and I know where the wind goes. And this is a wonderful example of how we can use indigenous knowledge for our own life, you know, for our own life, you know. Look around you, look at it's not only utopist, it's not only dreaming, it's really possibilities. And by the way, indigenous knowledge is in the West now. It's a lot. I mean, look about meditation. Where did meditation come from? It's not from Western world. Where the kind of food and kind of, you know, many kinds of things that we adapt now come from indigenous societies, And I think more and more, and I know now I thought Angela Miles is here, and I know, Angela, that in Canada, the university who starts, Western kind of university, who starts to give courses or departments on indigenous knowledge, in Canada. Maybe Angela can talk about it. And By the way, Angela gave me a wonderful present. She doesn't know even, she doesn't remember. But she introduced me to Genevieve. She introduced me many years ago to Genevieve's work, and she sent me a mail and said, "You must read it." I just met Genevieve in Finland. You met, or somewhere in Europe. You had a meeting, and Angela was there, and she said, "You must read it." And I read it, and it changed my life. And Angela gave me a present. She even doesn't realize that she gave me one of the best presents I ever got in my life. You know, reading Genevieve's work, and this started everything. And so applying it, this is on the personal level, but I think not only on the personal, it's giving examples of how you can use it. How you can use it. I think the gift economy is very important. The maternal, to understand it, to see it, to live by it, and also look around you. Look at your community, look at your neighborhood, you know, look at your neighborhood. What you can do is going out of individualism. By Gail is living, so I think what the younger generations are doing, I mean Generation Y and X and Z, is doing it on a larger scale. I mean, building like there are, I don't know, hundreds of communities now, intentional communities now in Israel, hundreds of them. There are all kinds of institutions like communication, how would I say, outside television, not private television, but communal television or communal newspapers. Most of them are digital on the internet, but they give you information that you don't get on the formal TV channels. And they built, and if you look around, you see many such initiatives, more and more. And I give them. I see how towns in Israel, and I talk about them in my book. How towns in Israel, they don't look to the state; they look to the neighbors and work with the neighbors to change their way of life, to change their community, to develop their community locally. I give quite a few examples in my book, and it's very important to do it in your community, to do the change where you live, in the neighborhood. Don't wait for the government to do it. The government, you know, I mean, and so there are many ways to do it. There are many ways to do it and to apply. And okay.
Liliana, do you have another question for us?
Yes, I have a question from Rachel O'Leary, and she says, how do producer cooperative businesses or worker-owned businesses fit into this model?
What? Say it again.
How do producer cooperative businesses or worker-owned businesses fit into this model?
Well, cooperatives are part of this model. Of course, cooperatives are a very, very central economic, I wouldn't say reinvention. They're very popular now everywhere. In Israel also, cooperatives, that worker cooperatives, and they work together and they build the business together. And they share the responsibility, and they share the work, and they share and this is part of the new world, what I call the new transformative activism of Generation Y. Because it becomes cooperative, becomes very, and they're not like both the communities and both the cooperatives are not like the old kibbutz that we had in Israel. The old kibbutz are not examples anymore for us. They are trying new ways of living and new ways of cooperation, of cooperatives. And I think it's very important. Yeah.
Thanks, Erella. Are there other questions?
Yeah, there's a question here from Virginia Barker. She says, I'm interested in not only championing mother logic in political economy, but in finding ways of unwinding without a cataclysmic revolution, the patriarchal political economy. I think of practical first steps to take with institutions and practices. For example, activism for regulation of businesses practices and redistribution of income taxation. Do you know of any other people or resources working in this area? Thank you.
I'm not sure I know any other people, but I think that I mentioned the redistribution of money. Redistribution of money is very central of resources is very central in indigenous wisdom, and I think more than that, another concept that is very important in economics is not only the subsistence economy that Veronica talks about, but also the balance within the economy. It's not the lack of equality between the rich and the millionaire, or the tycoons and the rich and the middle class and the lower class. It's the balance between all. In small communities, you can balance not only the power but also the resources. In the chapter on peace in the Middle East, I emphasize the balance between Palestinians and Israel and Jews in this area. Because right now the Jews have the power, all the power, and they can occupy the Palestinians. But if we are talking about peace in this area, we must find ways of balancing. For example, I'll give you an example. Much of our water resources come from the occupied territories, meaning from Palestinian territories. But they come to my house. The water comes to my house. I don't want it anymore. I want that the Palestinians will have. I want the balance of all water resources in the area. So part of it can be not occupied by run by Palestinians, and other parts may run by Jews. For example. So it's the concept of balance that is very central in matriarchy, the balance, and among indigenous, the balance in balance of power, balance between nature and human beings, the balance between generation, balance between men and women. Very important, very important, and in economy, in economics is very, very important. How we get there, it's not easy, but we have to begin. We have to begin to think about it. I think what's the first step towards change is changing our value system and changing the paradigm. A paradigm shift must start to be happening, and that's the main goal, I would say, of my book, is to begin a paradigm shift. If we begin a paradigm shift and start to think in terms of gift economy and not of sharing and not individualism, of mutual balance between all groups. All this concept that I try to emphasize throughout the books, I think on our daily on our reality, on everyday life, we have to start thinking about with this what Genevieve, for example, suggests all the time is a look around and you see gift economy all over. They are gift giving. We are homo donans. We are gift giving person because we give gifts all the time, but we don't name it gift economy. We don't name it gift giving. But that's what we are doing all the time. So it's very important to start thinking and looking and around using this new concept, new understanding, new paradigm.
Frida was asking, what is the main difference between the old kibbutz model and the new cooperative models, Erella?
Well, it's a long story, and there are many research. I'll just say, I'll give you one example. One very known example is they talk about equality, but it was a very patriarchal institution that that put women in traditional work assignments and send men to more respective work, and this is the main one of the main examples. And I think that also they are well, this is and they didn't, and for example, they now there is I give you a really issue that are discussed today, in this day, discussed for years, but especially these days in Israel, is that the kibbutzim, the kibbutz movement occupied most of the land in Israel. They are the owners of the land, of most part of the lands in Israel. And for example, Mizrahi, not Western Jews or Arabs are not owners of land. So by definition, they have more money, more opportunities, and there are quite a few, how would you say, quite a few criticism of the kibbutz movement, but especially today, what they are doing today. For example, they control some of the rivers. Why? Because the river, the kibbutz, the river goes within the kibbutz lands, and they don't let their neighbors to get to the river. But the river is a national resource. It's not a private resource. But they don't let their neighbor that they are not from the kibbutz to get into the river. Just an example that we are now on the news, on TV and everything. So the kibbutz control most of the land in Israel. The kibbutz and the kibbutzim and the moshavim, which is another agricultural invention, Jewish invention in Israel. And then and for example, and also I remember from my own experience that how the kibbutz I was in during my army service really used young girls, 16 years old from neighboring Mizrahi town to work in their factories to make money, and then the kibbutzim took the money and lived in a very good situation, economic situation, possibilities, and this girl didn't get anything, just pennies. I saw it in my eyes. I was there. I saw it, and it's there are many research, many. So in the same time, the kibbutzim really defined the border of Israel, because they built all around the in far, not in the main cities, not in the central of Israel. So in many ways they defined the borders of Israel. Some of them, by the way, live in a Palestinian villages, on Palestinian land also. So they're not as the kibbutzim that had a very good reputation as ideological and equal and blah, blah, blah. They're not as much, they're not that so much.
Thanks, Erella. Liliana.
Yes, I have a question from Maria Suarez Toro. Erella, do you know examples of gift giving between Palestinians and Israelis?
Oh yeah, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. For example, I'll give you. First of all, they're from both sides, but very interesting. During I think it was COVID-19 time that the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox, had problems. They couldn't leave their neighborhood and they didn't have. So the Palestinians send them trucks, send them food, simply food. So I think it was the ultra-Orthodox, and it was really, really impressive, because they know that they need it and they don't have the ability to get it. So they send him a truck full of food. And this is one example. Another example, of course, the many Israelis who cooperate with Palestinians on different levels. For example, there is a very interesting initiative in the south of Israel that is a cooperative. It's also a kind of university or college, but also for made up of Palestinians, Israelis, and Jordanian to take care of the south part of the Jordan River and the desert that Jordan, Palestine, and Israel share. And they do research together, and they have college together, they learn together, courses, and the teachers are, of course, and by the way, only now I was invited to, I'm invited to a new group, think tanks of people who wants to build here in Israel of Palestinians, and a Palestinian professor invited me to join a group to work on a vision of one state solution between the Mediterranean and the Jordan River that they're going to establish. I mean, they're working, and there are quite a few kind of cooperation in joint work, joint activism in this way. I remember in the first Intifada. I remember how much we demonstrated, and I was beaten by the police. I was just left the police, and I was beaten by the police because in the first Intifada I went to help Women in Black went to help the Palestinians that were occupied, the women that have been occupied by Israeli government. So there are many kinds of relationships built among, but not enough, I must say, not enough. I mean, the occupation is very strong, and I'm afraid to say that too many Israeli Jews are racist, the same way that they are sexist, they are also racist, and they want to keep occupation. They want to keep the lands, and they do it very well, I'm afraid.
Thanks, Erella. Liliana?
Yes, I have a comment from Judy Ashby. This is a comment, it's not a question. I have started to thank people for the gift I see them given when they think it is just part of their job. I point out to them that it is beyond their job and that I appreciate their gift. I hope that by recognizing and pointing it out, it helps make a tiny shift. And if
Yeah.
not, at least it makes them smile.
Yeah, I think it's very important. But I think also saying thank you to doctors or nurses that they're doing, or teachers, kindergarten teachers. It's very important too, because they're working very hard. They're working very hard. They're sometimes unhappy with their work or with the money they get. So it's very important. I remember during the COVID-19, we had quite a few, how they say, ways of thanking the doctors and the nurses, and I don't know if it was in Europe or in America too, but I remember that people all over Israel went to the balconies to thank the health bureaucracy in the same time. It was really, really moving to see all the people in Israel expressing their thanks. And so I think saying thank you is very important. You can add to it saying I thank you because I thank you for, to make it more understandable.
So Erella, with your book now out, what is it that you wish to be able to happen with this book? A revolution, besides the revolution. Something practical, first step.
I don't know. I want to connect, especially women, but women and men through the book, to talk about the revolution, to talk about paradigm shift, to talk about the collapse of the Western civilization. I want the collapse of Western civilization to be recognized, that people will talk about it, that people will understand it, that people will see it. I think it's very important. I see it everywhere. The Western, including in Israel. What we are used to, the state, the culture, the economy. Nothing is working really. And the threats, are really the inequality between people is on the rise. The nuclear weapon. I talk also about transhumanism and in my book, and about intelligence. How you call it? What?
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. It's a very dangerous thing. I know that you cannot stop it, but you cannot stop it, and I am afraid that this is the. I just read a very long article today about what artificial intelligence can do, will be able to do. It's frightening, and at least we have to think about artificial intelligence in terms of ethics, of democratic ethics, of justice, of freedom. I don't want the people who control the artificial intelligence will occupy my mind. Will influence, will change, I don't want them to make the revolution. But they are going to make the revolution. I see them as a threat. I know that they are unstoppable, but at least we can do something to control their development. And I'm very much afraid of it. And I think it's really bringing the Western civilization to a point where it's going to I don't know, to the end of the world. I mean,
The end of the world as we know it. I think, you know, at the beginning of COVID, when we went to the lockdown and we were trying to think of what we were going to call our salon series, you know, it really truly is the breakdown. It's a breakdown and a breakthrough. And so the maternal gift economy, with the breakdown happening, we have great potential for the vision that you're helping us to co-create a future with maternal gift economy, the work of Jen and all the others that you've named as your teachers. It's very, very inspiring and very encouraging amidst all the challenges that we're facing every day. So we have to be able to see those things that are arising so that we can put our energy there, as well as ensuring, you know, the protection of the planet as these new systems have a place to take over. Yeah, wonderful. Yes, Jen.
Yeah, I think we need to look at the future, at what is gonna happen in 10, 20, 50 years. And right now we are in a moment of a big change, and we are responsible for providing what we can with the materials that we still have for the people of the future, especially the women of the future, to be able to create something better than capitalist patriarchy. If they survive, because the capitalist patriarchy has created this tremendous situation of environmental disaster where people can't even live in their own home countries anymore and they have to escape. Well, that is spreading, and it's the environmental disaster is going to be hitting everywhere. So we're going to have to be even more gift giving than we were, or than we are ordinarily would be, in order to survive as a species and make the rest of the species survive too, along with us if possible. And so we have a big responsibility now, all of us, and also great opportunity to create something different before things get even worse.
Thanks, Jen. Erella, can you take 2 minutes to just, are there a few words that you'd like to say, and then I'll close us out for the day. So is there any thoughts you'd like to leave us with? Short thoughts.
I don't know. I think, well, after reading the article about artificial intelligence today, I feel that what Genevieve just said, that our role as women in general, but as gift givers, together with indigenous people, it's very important that we all do something. I mean, do in our daily life, change in our daily life, change in our surroundings, in our family, and do something that is both gift giving, it's sensitive to the other, respect to the other, men and women, and then try to, I know that, I mean, I'm too old to start a new community or a new way of life or change my life drastically, but I think I'm trying to influence, to push my daughter to start something new, to do it for me, you know. I mean, she's independent, but I'm trying to convince her that this is the way, and she understands. But but so I think if we cannot do it ourselves, we can make the impact on our friends, on our family, on our children, on whatever, colleagues, and if we're in writing or academia or researchers, we can do it in our writings, in our talks. I mean, to talk about it, to do research about it. I think that the role of academia is very important in this change, because if for example, to make a research on practices of gift giving now, it's so popular, it's so everywhere. So do a research and look at it, not only about the suffering or the inequality, which is important, but see it now, see how it works now. And I think yeah, I would like to see more people do it, apply it on an everyday basis.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank Erella for joining us today and just celebrate you and this wonderful book. And I want to thank our tech support, Diane, for your patience and for your agility to be able to assist us as we go along, and Liliana for organizing the questions. The comments and questions came fast and furious for a moment there. Genevieve, it's so wonderful to have you participate with Erella in conversation and in the chat, and the International Feminists for a Gift Economy Network, and of course, each of you who joined us today in this Zoom room. We are so thrilled that we can continue to bring these wonderful events to you. On that note, I want to invite you back next week, Saturday, May 27th, for Salon number 46. We had a group of us who went to the Association for the Study of Women in Mythology conference. And then we had a global day of sisterhood that the International Feminists for a Gift Economy supported. So we will be presenting some of our findings, our feedback, and the gifts that we got from that weekend. On Saturday, June 10th, Salon number 47, The Gift of Local Interdependence with Helena Norberg Hodge and Pat McCabe, Woman Standing Shining. Some of you may be familiar with Helen Norberg Hodge's work, Ancient Futures, and her most recent work, which was published in 2019, Local is Our Future, Steps to an Economics of Happiness. So we're very excited to have them with us June 10th. And then pushing ahead, another couple of women in our network, Saturday, July 15th, Barbara Alice Mann, whom Erella mentioned, and Karina Kylo will introduce their newly released book, The Woman Who Married the Bear, The Spirituality of the Ancient Foremothers. So please, we are just so excited to have these events. This recording of today's salon will be posted on our website at the maternalgifteconomymovement.org. We want to invite you to join us and write to us at maternalgifteconomy@gmail.com with your questions and comments, suggestions for future salons. So we are looking forward to seeing you next week, May 27th, for salon number 46, with the group of women who had the pleasure of being at the Association for the Study of Women in Mythology and hosting a global day of sisterhood. It should be quite a lively conversation. Thank you so much, everyone. So please stay safe, be well, be kind to one another, And as Erella is encouraging us, revolutionize with the maternal gift economy. Peace, everyone. Take good care.